The last thing I remember is the searing agony as the thugs turned me into a human torso. While they carved away my limbs, my husband, Julian, was tenderly spoon-feeding his childhood sweetheart. In my final moments, I fought through a tidal wave of pain. With my one remaining arm, I managed to dial his number. His voice, when it came, was a blade of ice and scorn. "What now? Calling to beg for my forgiveness? Dream on," he scoffed. "It's because of your jealousy that Chloe's heart condition flared up. What are you good for besides your petty envy? I will never forgive you. Not unless you die." The line went dead. As my own life bled out, I closed my eyes in utter despair. A day later, my heart, a ghost on the black market, was purchased at a premium price by my desperate husband. He who had just wished me dead, now treated it like a priceless gem, securing it for Chloe's transplant. Later, Julian, the man they called a god in the field of forensics, would spend a day and a night painstakingly reassembling my dismembered body parts. He identified every piece of me, every severed limb, every sliver of flesh. But he never found the heart. 2 days after my death, a customer at a downtown dumpling shop bit into something that was not pork. The police swarmed the scene immediately, a yellow tape sealing off the grim discovery. Every scrap of meat from the restaurant's kitchen was confiscated for analysis. Julian, my husband, the forensic deity, was called in. It didn't take him long to identify that a third of the minced meat was human. The perpetrator is pure evil. Captain Davies, the head of the homicide division, seethed, his face a mask of fury. "This is an abomination against God and man." Julian remained silent, his gaze fixed on the grisly evidence spread across the stainless steel table. Suddenly a soft, escaped his lips. He picked up a fragment of brain tissue and returned to his microscope, his focus absolute. After a few intense minutes, he looked up. "Find a new lead?" Davies asked, leaning in. Julian's brow was deeply furrowed. "The victim has been deceased for at least 3 days, yet some of the brain cells still show residual activity." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "This means the victim endured inhuman torture before death. Furthermore," he added, a strange light glinting in his eyes, "the heart tissue is missing from this collection of remains." Davies's eyes widened in shock. He spun around, barking orders at his officers. "Get on it. This is a critical lead. I want a citywide search. Scour every corner, tear up the damn ground if you have to, but find that missing heart." He slammed a fist on the table. "Damn it. A new ban on organ trafficking was just issued. These bastards have no fear, no respect for the law. The brutality is off the charts." His tirade over, he turned back, his expression softening with concern. "Julian," he began tentatively, "I heard you and your wife had a fight." A flash of raw disgust crossed Julian's handsome face. "Don't mention her to me. She caused someone else so much pain. It would be better if she just dropped dead somewhere." Even as a disembodied soul, I felt a sharp phantom pain in my non-existent chest. He still blamed me. He still believed his darling Chloe's heart attack was my fault. Davies looked apologetic. "Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. It's just, a resident in your complex saw a strange vehicle on the surveillance footage from a few nights ago. That was the night you fought with your wife, Ava, wasn't it? The night she left. We've checked the surrounding neighborhoods," Davies continued. "No one else is reported missing. Only your wife is unaccounted for. Maybe you should try calling her." There was a brief silence. Then the tension in Julian's brow eased, replaced by a cold, mocking smile. "That petty-minded woman? She can't stand to see me care for anyone else. This isn't the first time she's stormed out, and every single time she comes crawling back, begging for forgiveness. This is just another pathetic attempt to showcase her fragile resolve." He met the captain's gaze, his voice dripping with condescension. "Captain Davies, your concern should be with this vicious murder case. A trivial matter like my wife's tantrum is hardly worthy of your time." Davies opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. He just shook his head with a weary sigh and went to organize his teams. A bitter, soundless laugh escaped me. All those arguments, all those fights I had initiated, hoping he would finally see my pain, my dissatisfaction. I thought they meant something. But now I understood. To him, I was just a clown, and my pain was his entertainment. Julian lost himself in the lab, a sterile world where bodies told secrets and emotions were irrelevant. For 2 days straight, he worked without sleep, driven to decipher the brutal process that had created the human puzzle on his table. It was only when a piercing headache lanced through his skull that he finally paused. His phone buzzed. It was HR from my company. "Hello, is this Mr. Julian Croft, Ava's husband? Ava hasn't come to work for 3 days. If she doesn't show up, we'll have to terminate her employment." A cold laugh. "I'm not surprised. She's always been a coward, the type to run away when things get tough. Not only that, she has violent tendencies. You should fire her immediately, for your own safety." "Well, could you help us contact her? Her phone isn't reachable." "I'm sorry, I don't have time. If she doesn't show, just fire her." He paused, then added a final venomous twist. "In fact, I'd recommend you blacklist her. Save some other company from the potential harm she might cause." He hung up. Captain Davies approached him, his face etched with worry. "Julian, why don't you go home and get some rest? And call your wife. You're a married couple. You have to learn to meet each other halfway for it to last." Julian's first instinct was to refuse, but the relentless throbbing in his temples made argument impossible. He agreed. On the drive home, he opened his phone and glanced at his call log. At the very top was Chloe's number, saved as "My dearest Chloe." Seeing it, I couldn't help but mock my own foolishness. While he was immersed in the morbid poetry of dissected corpses at the station, his thoughts, his worries were constantly with her. My last call to him was a ghost, buried 3 days deep in the log. That day, the day I died, he had brought Chloe to our home. He had called me earlier, asking when I'd be back. I was planning to surprise him with a gift and had lied, telling him I had to work late. But when I opened the door, the sight that greeted me was of them in the living room, locked in a passionate kiss, their clothes half undone, their bodies entangled. Rage erupted in me. I rushed forward to tear Chloe away. But before my hand could even touch her, she swayed and collapsed to the floor. Julian ignored my frantic questions, my accusations. He called an ambulance, rode with her to the hospital, and was at her side when they diagnosed the heart condition. That night, he stormed back home, his face a thundercloud of blame. He screamed that if I hadn't startled her, her heart wouldn't have given out, that she had almost died because of me. He was so blind. I never laid a finger on his lover. It was their own torrid passion that had sent her heart racing out of control. Furious and heartbroken, I had fled our home. I never made it back. Now in the car, Julian's thumb hovered over my name in his contacts. For a split second it seemed he would press it. I held my breath, a silent spectral scream caught in my throat. Before I died, I had set up an automated voice reply on my phone and with my last ounce of strength, thrown it into a dense thicket of bushes. If the thugs hadn't found it, if Julian would just call, he would know. He would know I was gone. But then, after a moment's hesitation, his thumb slid away. A cold sneer twisted his lips. "Trying to play hard to get with me? Let's see how long you can hold out before you come crawling back. But this time," he whispered to the empty car, "even if you get on your knees and beg Chloe for forgiveness, I will never take you back." A hollow laugh echoed in my soul. He had no idea. I was already dead. An apology, even if I wanted to give one, was impossible. And why? Why did he feel so entitled to his affair? Using my own heart to save his precious Chloe, and still expecting me to be the one to apologize? It was my fault. I had tolerated too much. My boundless love had erased his boundaries, eroded his respect, until there was nothing left. I screamed my silent rage at him, but he heard nothing. Julian arrived at the hospital. In a private room I saw Chloe, her face pale and fragile against the white pillows. Her face lit up. When she saw him, as she reached out, she suddenly lost her balance and tumbled from the bed, collapsing into a fit of violent coughing. Julian rushed to her side, grabbing her hands. He didn't flinch at the mess she coughed onto her hospital gown, simply lifted her back onto the bed with a strength born of desperation. Watching them, even knowing about their affair, a phantom ache pierced my soul. When we were together, Julian had always been so particular, so quick to complain about any mess. He had a thing for cleanliness, or so I thought. But for her, he didn't hesitate. I realized then that his fastidiousness wasn't a trait. It was selective. It was never about cleanliness. It was about who he was with. Gently, he wiped the corner of Chloe's mouth. "Chloe, I'm so sorry," he murmured. "There was a horrific murder case. It required my full attention." Chloe's eyes widened with theatrical sympathy. If it was difficult even for you, the god of forensics, it must have been truly monstrous. Without reservation, Julian told her everything that had happened at the station. When he mentioned the victim was missing a heart, Chloe's hand instinctively went to her own chest. "Julian," she whispered, her voice trembling, "do you think could it be mine?" He froze for a second, then pulled her into a fierce embrace. "Chloe, don't even think that. The world doesn't work with coincidences like that. Besides, I acquired this heart through proper official channels. It couldn't possibly belong to a murder victim." Listening to his web of lies, Chloe nodded, her face buried in his chest, a picture of blissful trust. "Yes, of course. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead. I trust anything you say." Julian stroked her hair, his voice a soft caress. Their eyes met, a universe of shared affection passing between them. Then a flicker of worry crossed Chloe's face. "What is it, Chloe?" Julian asked. "Julian, your wife, she's terrifying. We hadn't seen each other in so long, we were just hugging, and she looked like she wanted to kill me." Her voice was a fragile whisper. "How could you marry someone like that? Do you think she'll come back to hurt me?" Julian's expression hardened. "She's a petty, jealous woman. She's always been pathologically possessive. But don't worry. It will never happen again. I won't allow anyone to hurt you ever again." A spark of triumph lit Chloe's eyes. "Julian, does that mean?" After a charged silence, a look of grim resolve settled on Julian's face. "When she comes back," he said, his voice low and firm, "I'm divorcing her." "Really?" He looked at Chloe, his gaze full of adoration, and nodded. They sealed the promise with a kiss. Afterwards, he found my name in his call log, and without a moment's hesitation, deleted my contact. I floated there, stunned. He was going to divorce me. For her. 3 years of marriage erased with a single heartless decision. He must be thrilled, I thought with a bitter pang. He could save himself the trouble of the divorce proceedings now. After all, I was already dead. Suddenly, Julian's phone rang. After murmuring a few comforting words to Chloe, he stepped out of the room to answer it. It was Captain Davies, his voice urgent and strained. "Julian, have you been able to contact your wife, Ava?" At the sound of my name, Julian, who had just decided to discard me, bristled. "Captain, that's my personal life. You." Davies cut him off. "I'm not trying to interfere. We just got a lead on the victim's heart." He paused. "And it might be connected to your wife. Ava." Julian's eyes narrowed, a cold smile touching his lips. "Captain, if this is about the investigation, I will of course cooperate. But if this is some roundabout way to get me to reconcile with Ava, you can save your breath. We're getting a divorce." Over the phone, Davies sighed. "Julian, for your own sake, you need to come down to the station. We need your analysis." Julian's voice was like ice. "I am currently caring for someone far more important. If you don't have a credible lead, or if this is about someone insignificant, I will no longer assist in this investigation. And that includes anything to do with Ava." I froze. Someone far more important. The words were a dagger. Rage burned through my spectral form, but it was overshadowed by a different kind of fury, the sheer disrespect of him announcing our divorce to the world without ever speaking to me. Returning to the room, Julian leaned over and pressed a soft kiss to Chloe's forehead, his tone gentler than any I had ever heard him use with me. "Chloe, there's an emergency at work. You get some rest." As he turned to leave, she grabbed his hand. "Is it about Ava? Did they find her?" Julian leaned back down, wrapping her in an embrace so careful it seemed he was afraid of disturbing the new heart in her chest. "What I said before hasn't changed. Promise. When I get back, I'll stay with you." Chloe smiled, relieved. "Go. I'll be waiting." When Julian arrived at the station, the investigative team was already assembled. My best friend Maya was there too, clutching a battered, mud-stained phone. I drifted closer. It was my phone. Captain Davies stood before the conference table. "I know everyone is exhausted from this case, but we can't rest until it's solved. Every second we delay, another life could be at risk. Just now, an informant tipped us off about a black market heart transaction in the South District. The timing matches our case. Julian's wife, Ava, was also allegedly seen in that area. Following the lead, we've apprehended a suspect." Davies looked at Julian, then held up a sealed evidence bag containing a few strands of hair and skin flakes. "Julian, we think this belongs to your wife. You need to prepare yourself. I hope it's her, Julian muttered, taking the bag. His hand, however, was trembling slightly as he walked toward the lab. Why is he shaking? I wondered. He hates me. It must be from excitement. The test results came back quickly. The hair and skin were human. In the interrogation room, a suspect was nervously confessing. Where did you sell the victim's heart? Davies demanded. Heart? The suspect looked bewildered, then grinned nervously. Officer, you've got the wrong guy. I just kidnapped a kid to get some ransom money from his parents. I wouldn't dare kill anyone. Davies shot a glance at Julian, then slammed the table. Then where is the person you kidnapped? Spit it out. Before the suspect could answer, Julian spoke, his voice flat. Captain, since the victim is alive, you don't need me anymore. My work here is essentially done. I need to take care of something. Requesting your approval to leave. Seeing Julian's dark mood, Davies didn't argue. All right. Thank you for your work. We'll handle it from here. Outside the interrogation room, Julian clutched a single strand of my hair in his hand. I knew it. He whispered to the empty hallway. The wicked live long lives. Couldn't be you. You're hiding somewhere, waiting for me to come find you. Such a childish game. He opened his phone, staring at the now empty space where my contact information used to be, lost in thought for a moment. Just then the hospital called. Hello, are you the patient's family? The patient is experiencing a sudden rejection episode. She may need another surgery to stabilize her. Please come and sign the consent forms immediately. Julian's face went pale with panic. Start the treatment now. I'm on my way. He sprinted to his car and sped toward the hospital. That car. We had picked it out together. I never liked driving, so it became his. I was always the passenger, usually sleeping in the seat next to him. I once joked, if I died one day, would you be lonely? He had replied, if you died, at least there wouldn't be any more snoring in the car. I never thought that cruel joke would become reality. The car flew through the streets much faster than he ever drove when I was with him, nagging him to slow down. Without my nagging, he was so much more free. When he pulled up to the hospital, he stopped the car and instinctively reached his hand toward the passenger seat. Water, he commanded out of habit. He always got thirsty while driving, and I always had a bottle of water ready for him, the cap already twisted open. Lost in the concentration of the frantic drive, he had forgotten I wasn't there. He stared at the empty seat, his hand frozen in midair. For a long moment he just sat there. Then slowly he pulled his hand back, his voice a low, cold snarl. Ava, you'd better never come back. He slammed the car door and ran into the hospital. He waited outside the operating room for over 2 agonizing hours. When the doctors finally wheeled Chloe out, assuring him she was stable, he rushed to her side. Chloe, you're safe. That's all that matters. From now on, I'm not leaving your side until you're fully recovered. Chloe managed a weak smile. Julian, I'm so glad I can see you again. I thought I was going to die. His gaze was resolute. Don't worry. I won't let you die. Then, his voice filled with hatred, he added, this is all Ava's fault. If it weren't for her, you would never have gone through this. Chloe shook her head feebly. It's in the past, Julian. As long as you're with me, even if I only have a few more years to live, I'll be happy. He quickly pressed a finger to her lips. Don't say that. The doctor said this heart is a perfect match for you. A minor rejection is normal. Once you get through this period, you'll be able to live like a normal person. I hope so, she whispered, her hand rising to touch his cheek. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave you. Julian let her hand rest on his face, his eyes filled with nothing but aching tenderness. A month later, Chloe was discharged from the hospital. During that time, Julian did nothing but care for her. He cooked, he cleaned, he tended to her every need. My best friend Maya called him once. I can still recall the chilling indifference in his voice. Ava caused Chloe's heart attack, he had told her, his tone flat. I have no connection to her anymore. If you see her, please tell her to come back and sign the divorce papers. Thank you. Maya was stunned. Julian, did Chloe come crying to you again? Don't you remember the flood? Don't you remember Ava giving you the only life preserver, almost drowning herself to save you? Don't you forget how she devoted herself to you after you got married? She stopped hanging out with us, her friends. She quit a high-paying job to be with you. She bent her entire life to fit yours. And now you're going to divorce her for your so-called childhood sweetheart? Do you have a conscience? Maya's voice was a roar of fury over the phone. Julian just laughed, a cold, empty sound. I had no idea she was the type to air our dirty laundry to everyone. If I had known what kind of person she really was, I never would have agreed to marry her in the first place. He hung up and turned his attention back to his precious Chloe. Julian, look. Chloe beamed, sitting up in bed without assistance. I can get up on my own. My heart feels fine. She threw her arms around him, tears of joy in her eyes. Am I a normal person now? Julian nodded, his expression serious. Yes. You're just like a normal person now. Then Chloe asked casually, Julian, any news about Ava? A cold sneer would have formed on my lips if I had them. She didn't care if I was found. She just wanted to know if I had returned so they could finalize the divorce. At the mention of my name, Julian's face clouded over. Not yet. It seems she's determined to fight this to the bitter end. He added with confidence, but it doesn't matter. She'll show up eventually. Chloe nodded, then her eyes lit up. Oh, Julian. Remember how we always talked about traveling together? My heart was too weak back then. My parents wouldn't let me go anywhere. But now we're free, she said, her voice full of excitement. We can do whatever we want. At the word free, the smile on Julian's face faltered for a fraction of a second. Noticing his hesitation, Chloe asked, What's wrong? Aren't you happy? The smile returned, a little forced this time. Of course I'm happy. Let's go. Let's fulfill our old promise. The next day they were on a train to Bali. A journey to sun-drenched beaches and romantic sunsets. They chose the train over a plane, wanting to savor the scenery of places they had never been. Chloe's stamina was still not at a normal level, and Julian's patience and tenderness were a constant, gentle presence throughout the trip. I had never seen him so patient. As his wife, I had never once been the recipient of such gentle care. They checked into a hotel during a layover. Unsurprisingly, they booked one room. When it came to the bed, Chloe, blushing, requested a king size. Julian acquiesced in silence. Watching their cloying affection, from the start of the trip until now, had transformed my initial raging fury into a state of complete numbness. Even seeing them about to share a bed stirred little emotion in me. While Chloe was in the shower, Julian sat on the bed, staring silently at his phone. There was a notification for a package delivery. I drifted over his shoulder to look. It was the sunblock I had ordered for him. I remembered how much it pained me to see him get sunburned. 2 days before our final fight, he had suddenly suggested we go hiking. The weather, initially overcast, cleared up halfway through our climb. The scorching sun had burned his legs, and I had to practically carry him down the mountain. That day he asked me a strange question. Ava, how much do you think I love you? I thought he was just teasing and replied without much thought. 10 out of 10, of course. We're husband and wife. He had just smiled without another word. That night, when I came out of the shower, I saw him smiling at his phone. Thinking he was in a good mood, I tried to hug him. He flinched away like a startled animal, clutching his phone to his chest as if to hide a terrible secret. Now it was obvious. He had been talking to Chloe, and I, like a fool, had thought he was just sharing some stupid joke with his friends. Chloe emerged from the bathroom and sat beside him. What are you looking at, Julian? He snapped back to reality, closing his phone. Nothing, he said with a weak smile. Just a notification for a package I forgot to pick up. What kind of package has you so distracted? Chloe's eyes narrowed. It's not from Ava, is it? The woman who nearly killed me. Julian shook his head. No. I can't even remember what it was I ordered. A lie. I was puzzled. He knew exactly what it was. I always addressed the packages I bought for him with a single character from his name. Julian. Chloe's smile returned. She wrapped her arms around him, and this time he didn't pull away. After a candlelit dinner, they fell into each other's arms. Floating above them, watching the scene unfold, my numb heart suddenly felt a surge of suffocating irritation. We were still legally married, yet here he was, entwined with another woman. And inside that woman's body was my heart. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. I wanted to tear the adulterous pair apart, but my hands passed right through them. But just as they were about to take the final step, Julian suddenly stopped her, gently pushing her hand away before getting up and putting on his clothes. The abrupt interruption left Chloe frowning. Julian, we've done everything else. What's one last step? Is this because of Ava? His face was a calm mask. Chloe, Ava and I are not officially divorced. I want to give you happiness, but I want to do it honorably. Her voice was laced with frustration. But we've been together behind her back for so long. What's the difference if we do this or not? Julian's expression flickered. A new rage ignited within me. For so long? How long? A year? 2? He glanced at his silent phone again, shook his head, and stepped out onto the balcony. A cool breeze ruffled his hair, making him look desolate. Chloe followed, wrapping her arms around his waist. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was being impatient. I wasn't thinking about your feelings. Chloe, he said calmly, you know there's no future for me and Ava. She smiled. It's okay. You saved my life. I'll wait for you always. When the train finally reached their destination, Julian was asleep in Chloe's arms. She woke him with a gentle kiss on the cheek. It was a scene straight out of a romance film. The moment they stepped off the train, Chloe dragged him toward the famous Lovers' Beach. While she was lost in a flurry of picture-taking, Julian was uncharacteristically preoccupied with his phone, his eyes returning again and again to that package notification. He unconsciously rubbed his ankle, right where he had been sunburned. Then he received a call from Captain Davies. All I could hear was the word phone. A jolt went through me. Could they have found it? The one I threw away? If they found the phone, they would know I was dead. Or, even simpler, if Julian would just call the number, my automated message would tell him everything. But he still hadn't called. Chloe ran over, grabbing his arm to take a selfie. This time Julian pulled his hand away. Chloe, we're going back tomorrow. She was stunned. But we just got here. The station called. They need my help on the case. Davies wants me back as soon as possible. Seeing his resolute expression, Chloe lowered her head. All right. Whatever you say. Then she added, it's probably for the best. That bitch Ava is probably searching the world for you by now. We can get the divorce over with when we get back. Julian gave a non-committal nod. But as he turned away, I heard Chloe mutter under her breath. A lingering ghost. Once Julian divorces you, you'll be nothing. On the way back, Julian was noticeably agitated, though he tried to suppress it. There were no stops. The moment the train pulled into the station, he headed straight for the police department. Chloe wanted to follow, but he used her recent health scare as an excuse to send her home. When Julian walked into the station, Davies was waiting for him. And so was my friend, Maya. She held out the battered phone. My phone. They played the recording for him. My voice filled the silent room. My dearest husband, it's me, your loving wife. The first thing I need to tell you is that I'm about to die. They've turned me into a human torso. There's no escape. The second thing is a clarification. Chloe's heart attack had nothing to do with me. By the time I got near her, she was already on the ground. Oh, and don't forget to use the sunscreen I bought you. It's getting hot out. You need to protect your skin. Also, you're a terrible cook. Try not to eat things that look too good to be true. They're usually unhealthy. There's so much more I want to say, but they're coming back for me. I'm out of time. Finally, I hope you can be happy. Find someone gentle to spend the rest of your life with. The recording ended. Maya stepped forward and slapped Julian across the face, the sound cracking like a whip. You bastard, she screamed. Do you know why Ava said she only had you? Because during that flood she chose to save you. She didn't even have time to save her own parents. How could you cheat on her? How could you hurt her so deeply? If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have left in a rage that night. She wouldn't have been so distraught that she was ambushed and kidnapped. You're a murderer. Maya was hysterical. Davies had to restrain her. At that moment, Julian received a text from Chloe. The rejection symptoms were back. He looked up, his eyes boring into Maya. You can paint her as a saint all you want, but have you ever considered that everything she did willingly? She was petty and small-minded. Why should I be blamed for her death? Ultimately, her own jealousy is what killed her. Do you have a heart? Maya shrieked. Being with you was the biggest mistake of Ava's life. Say what you will, Julian said, his voice cold. If I am guilty of a crime in her death, then by all means arrest me. If not, I'm leaving. Chloe is waiting for me. He turned and walked away without a backward glance. I let out a silent, bitter laugh. My final words, my last testament of love and pain, were nothing more than a nuisance to him. I thought he would rush to the hospital. Instead, he drove home. On the way, Chloe called again, her voice frantic, saying she thought she was dying and needed to see him immediately. To my surprise, Julian's reply was calm, almost detached. "It's all right. The doctors are with you. You'll get through it." He hung up. Back at our home in our bedroom, he locked the door and slid to the floor, his body devoid of strength. I noticed then that he was still clutching my phone, his hand trembling uncontrollably. "Ava," he whispered to the empty room, "are you really dead? Or are you still angry, playing a cruel joke on me?" He looked at the filthy phone in his hand and suddenly threw it across the room. "This phone is so dirty. It can't be yours. You're hiding somewhere, aren't you? You just want me to call you, don't you? Fine. You win. I'll call." He took out his own phone. It took him a long time to find my number, which he had to manually dial since he had deleted my contact. He pressed call. A ringtone echoed from the phone he had just thrown. And then my pre-recorded voice began to play. "My dearest husband, it's me, your loving wife. The first thing I need to tell you is that I'm about to." Julian lunged forward and cut off the recording. He clutched my phone to his chest, and for the first time he wept. Great silent tears streamed down his face. I watched him, a quiet observer of his unraveling. Suddenly, my own spectral form began to dim. A profound weariness washed over me. I knew my time was short. Perhaps it was only my lingering obsession with him that had anchored me to this world for so long. All night Julian went through my phone. His world was flooded with images of us. Photos and videos from our life together, including a picture taken right after the flood, a snapshot of our survival. My parents had lied to me then, told me they were safe, and urged me to save Julian first. The guilt of their deaths had been my shadow for years. In the dead of night, he fell asleep on the floor, only to be jolted awake by a call. It was Chloe, her voice bright and cheerful. "Julian, where are you? I made it through another one. The doctor says just a few more compatibility cycles, and this heart will be mine forever." Julian shot awake, a single word on his lips. "Heart? Heart." He seemed to forget to reply to her. He scrambled to his feet and opened the door, intent on going somewhere. But Maya was standing there. She had come to curse him, but the sight of his hollow, dark-ringed eyes stopped the words in her throat. "Davies found this," she said, holding out a blood-stained necklace. "It has Ava's fingerprints on it. There's a single word engraved on the charm. Julian, it must have been a gift for you. She was so good to you. I feel so sorry for her. Ava has no parents left. You are her last remaining family. You need to arrange her burial. Also," Maya added, her voice heavy, "Davies has traced the whereabouts of Ava's heart. He's giving you time to handle her final affairs. You need to think carefully about what you're going to do." She left him standing there. Julian stared at the blood-stained necklace for a long time before fastening it around his own neck. For the next few days, he locked himself away again, as if waiting. He was waiting for Chloe's next message. It came, announcing that after one final procedure, the heart would be completely hers. At that moment, a strange vitality seemed to return to Julian. "Good," he texted back. "I'll be there to be with you." He sent the message and then looked up into the empty air of the room, as if speaking to her, or perhaps to me. His voice was chilling. I feared what he was about to do. I tried to stop him, to block his path, but I passed right through him. After Chloe's surgery, Julian went into her recovery room to be with her. She was wearing an oxygen mask, her eyes shining with excitement. "Julian," she rasped, "I'm about to be reborn. Are you happy for me?" Julian smiled, a thin, terrible smile, and then he reached for her oxygen mask. Her eyes widened in terror. She was too weak to fight, her breath already labored. She could only reach out a trembling hand. "Julian, what are you doing?" "This heart," he said, his voice unnervingly calm, "was never meant for you." He held the mask away until she stopped struggling, until her hand fell limp. Only then did he place the oxygen mask back on her face. After leaving the hospital, he went to a jewelry store and bought a pair of matching wedding rings. Back at home, he placed one of the rings on my broken phone and played my final message. "Ava," he whispered, "please don't be angry anymore, okay? Look, I bought you an anniversary gift. You always said I never bought you a proper gift. This time they're a matching set." He picked up a razor blade and drew it across his wrist. Blood dark and swift poured out. I wanted to scream to tell him to stop, but I knew he couldn't hear me. As his consciousness began to fade, he looked up, his gaze seeming to fix on the spot where I floated. Am I hallucinating? I think I see you. This is not a hallucination, I said, my voice cold and clear in the space between life and death. Tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry. It was all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have died. A cold laugh escaped me. Don't be so sentimental. Do you think your death will earn my forgiveness? Let me tell you the truth. I saw everything you and Chloe did. I was there. I watched you care for her, take her to Bali, sleep in the same bed, wrap yourselves in passion. So you don't get to die. You have to live and atone for what you've done. Atone? His voice was a choked sob. But I have no chance. You're already dead. I died a horrific death. So you will atone by living in agony. I don't want to be haunted by you in the afterlife. You don't get the easy way out. You don't deserve to die. He wiped his tears, mumbling the words over and over. I don't deserve to die. I don't deserve to die. His consciousness was slipping away from blood loss. He would have died, but Maya, perhaps driven by some final lingering instinct, arrived just in time and got him to the hospital. At that moment, my form became almost completely transparent. I knew it was time for me to leave. My only hope is that in the next life, if there is one, I will find someone who will treasure me.